There we are.
Hello. Thank you all for coming out to Oklahomeschooling talent show and holiday market. And we've got the Meet the Authors in the back, and we've got some lovely judges today. And we've got Jake Merrick here about to speak. I want to say that after the judging, it's probably going to take about 30 minutes to judge, and then we'll have an award ceremony. Okay, so I'll go ahead and announce Jake. So here he is. Thank you all for coming out.
It's good to be here. I'm going to take it off the stand so I can wander around. Well, we used to live right here in Bixby. A few years ago, we lived up the road, and then we lived back over here in a community over here. And we used to come to this park a lot, so it's kind of like coming back home. It's neat. Love this area. Like we were just talking, I mean, you kind of have everything you need, but then the people to come with it because it's blowing up so much. So we now live in Tuttle, and so it's about 2 hours from here. And I am running for governor of Oklahoma because I want to see some significant changes in the state. I don't think there's any other state I'd rather be in. I'm very thankful for Oklahoma, but I'm not content with where we're at. And you know, I served in the Oklahoma State Senate for a bit, learned a lot about how the sausage is made, so they say. And there's some issues with the structure that I want to see changed. But as a homeschool parent, I want to make sure that we protect our right to homeschool. I think that it is one of the most, I saw a quote today actually, and he said the most accessible expression of individual authority is your right to homeschool. As you exercise your authority over your own home, over your time, over your values, and over the formation of your children, you're exercising the ultimate expression of self-sovereignty and freedom. And that has to be preserved in the state. So there is a large coalition in the state that want to step in and make sure that all homeschool parents meet certain standards or they have certain curriculum. And I just want to ensure that door is firmly shut so the government has no entrance into our homes. And then we can educate our children as we see fit. So that can kind of give you an insight into where I stand on most things. You know, I believe in limited government. I think government has its place, and we need to keep it in its place. And it's up to us, the people, to do just that. And the government will go as far as we let it go. And it will grow as much as it can. I tell people all the time, I'm not a Superman candidate. I'm not coming in saying that I can solve any problem you have. That was actually the promise of the newly elected mayor of New York City. Saying there is no problem too big that we can't solve. Be afraid of that kind of government. There are things that government was not designed to do, and one of those is to protect your families. That should be our responsibility. It's the responsibility I assume as a father and as a parent, as a husband. As I educate my children, I protect my own home, and I want to keep government where it's supposed to be. So, man, as we're out here in this beautiful day, it's just a reminder of how good God is, huh? And we serve a good God, and I say that whenever we have a big God, we can have a small government. I serve a big God, and I don't need a big government. If you have a small God, you might need a big government. But I have a big God, so I want to keep government in its lane. There's a lot of issues on the table right now. We adopted out of DHS, and we were exposed to the corruption, the brokenness of that system. And it's a high priority for me to come in and reform DHS, especially child welfare, even adult protective services, because we're seeing instances across the state where either children are left in homes that are abusive or they're taken from good homes, and now they're victims of the system. And so I want to see massive reform in that area, which is also connected to judicial reform. I want to see greater transparency in our courts and greater accountability to our judges. More legislative oversight. So ultimately what I want to see is the people back in charge. And I tell people all the time, it's easy to say every candidate is going to make big promises. So I ask myself, how can I prove that I'm actually sincere? Well, one of the only ways I know to prove that to the people is to not take money from special interest groups. So I've committed in my race not to take any money from PACs or special interest groups and only take donations from individuals across the state. So that you can have confidence that when I'm elected, I'm not going to be beholden to the ones who fought my way there. I'll be obligated only to God and the people of Oklahoma. And that's the best way I know to guarantee that is to not take that money. So we want to run a clean campaign. We want to run a campaign that has the interest of the people in mind. And so I'm going to be out here for a while, and I'd love to have a conversation with you. I'd love to talk with you about the issues that are important to you. One of the things I'm excited about implementing when elected is a citizen advisory board. Actually, multiple citizen advisory boards where we can have homeschool parents together to talk about what's needed in the homeschool community. We can have those in the energy sector talking about what's important for energy in Oklahoma, whether it's the oil and gas or green energy or beyond. You know, I had a lady come up to me and she said, do you know how the state of Oklahoma treats the spouses of veterans? And I said, honestly, I don't. And she said, well, you need to. And I said, I agree. And so I want to get together with the spouses of veterans to find out how we can serve them better. So I want to hear directly from the people of Oklahoma, not just big special interest groups. And so, you know, one thing that is very important to me, and you just remind me, Andrea, how much time I have, because I can be up here all day.
Oh, no, you're all right, you're all right.
When I left here, we were serving on a church here in Tulsa as pastors, and we left to go back to Oklahoma City, and we felt it was on a prayer assignment, but God had other plans, and so he ended up calling me to run for Congress. I ran for Congress. Stephanie Bice won that race. I ran for her vacated state Senate seat and won that election and served the remainder of her term in the Oklahoma State Senate. After I left the Senate, then I started a radio show on 96.9 FM, the Merrick Show, where I talked about Oklahoma news and politics. And so I did that for 2.5 years and got very familiar with what's happening across the state. But there's a lot more to learn always. And just in that time of interviewing the governor and legislators and influencers across the state, you find out the variety of issues that impact individuals. So there's nothing like talking to the individual themselves. You know, one of the things that I'm hearing across the state that people are interested in is doing away with property tax. And I'm all about it. You know, I'm seeing Governor DeSantis in Florida, that he's wanting to end property tax in Florida, especially for homestead. And I hope he's successful, but I hope it's after I'm elected, because I want to lead the way. I'm tired of following Florida on everything, you know? I want to lead Florida on something, and I'd like to end property tax here in Oklahoma first. Now, of course, that would require a constitutional amendment. I couldn't just unilaterally do that. But I think that would do a lot. Well, first of all, I think that it would be more consistent with the Constitution, that we could actually own the fruits of our labor. Because if you pay off your home or your property and then the government can take it if you don't pay the taxes, do you really own it? So I would like for us to actually finally own our property here in Oklahoma. And I think the best way to ensure that is that we do away with property tax. So these are some of those, some may call it radical. I think it's common sense. I think what's happening in New York is pretty radical. You know, I think that we have to do our best here in Oklahoma to ensure Sharia law never has a foothold. And so we want to stand resolutely against that and stand on the principles that has historically made Oklahoma and America great. And we know that those are firmly rooted in biblical principles. So I will continue to fight for that. I know there's so much to cover, and so when I stand on stage in front of you, it's like, you know, where do you start? But that gives you a big overview of where I'm at. I'll end on this one that I do want to see abortion finally ended in Oklahoma. You know, currently we have, when I was in the Senate, I fought to end abortion before Roe versus Wade was overturned. We have the abortion clinics shut down in the state, which is a great thing. But right now we can still mail order abortifacients, and abortions are terminated still routinely across the state. So that practice has to end. And I want to make sure that the over 3,000 babies that are currently murdered in the state of Oklahoma in the womb, that practice ends. And so I'll be fighting for that as well. I'm going to be hanging out here and watching the rest of the talent show. I'm excited about that. I love the marketplace out here. The table set up, displaying the creativity and the ingenuity of our kids is amazing. So I want to get with Andrea and see how we can get something like this started over in Tuttle, where I'm from, because my daughter will be all about this.
Yeah.
She's got her own crafts and her book that she's working on. So this is where it starts right here. This is really how you make the nation and the state great, is by pouring into our kids and giving them an avenue to pour out into the society. So I love it. Andrea, thank you for the invite to come. I will say that I have the stuff that the mailers that we handed out, the handouts. We have signs. We have buttons. So if you want buttons, we got a little bit of everything. I usually have a helper to help me with all this stuff right here. I'm not great at that. But if you want any of this stuff, I got plenty for you. But I'd love to meet you and hear your story too. Andrea, thank you so much.